Okay, we are starting our next vlog. I'm new to this vlogging thing. I don't quite understand it, but that's what we're doing. So today my goal is to at least get one of the bodices cut out for one of the stepsisters. I already have my mock-up, which I did out of canvas, and this fit her really well, one of them. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this as the interlining, and I'm just going to bag line. But before I do that, I'm going to add some boning to the seams of this bodice on this canvas, and then I will cut out my fashion fabric and put that all together, and then bag line that around the neckline, and just the neckline really, because then I'm going to turn in the back. Though I'm pretty sure I'm going to do a zipper in the back, but I might do hooks. I might do hook and eye tape, but I think a zipper is going to be better. I just have to, I need to get some longer zippers. I have to look through and see if I've got any in the right color. So my cutting mat has been moved to the living room to work on cutting out Milky White. That is tedious, all of those ribs. I think we need about 30 individual rings of cardboard for that, because we're putting 3 together, 3 thick for each rib. So at least 30, and I think we've only got like 6 cut out at this point. It's rough work. It hurts my wrist and my hand going through that cardboard with the box cutter. So yeah, can't do a whole lot all at once. Today's t-shirt is Muppet Christmas Carol. Also, I got some pretty silver and gold lace. I don't have a whole lot of it, so I don't know if I'm going to use it. It might be enough to gather and put at the end on the bottom of the sleeves for Cinderella's ball gown, but I just thought it was pretty, and I mean, I guess I should have gotten more, but it was kind of expensive, so I just thought, well, I'm sure I can find somewhere to put this. I might just use it as a detail on the bodice. That I also haven't decided, but it's pretty. I have it, and it's silver and gold, so I think it's going to look really, really pretty. Okay, some more into the woods things that I'm going to be using in the show or for costumes. Mostly, well, for costumes. We've got this scarf that I'm going to incorporate into the witch's costume. And so it's got a little shiny stuff, which is fine because I think it's, you know, a remnant of her former life. But it's got all these strings hanging off, so it looks kind of tattered. So I'm probably going to attach this to her costume somewhere. I haven't decided yet, but I just thought it was cool looking. So I got that. Have this vest for Cinderella's prince so that they will be matchy-matchy. I think the rest of Cinderella's princess costume is going to be black, but I'm probably going to do some gold accents on it, but his vest is gold. Have some lace, white lace with silver. You never know when you might need that. I'm thinking of some accents on Cinderella's costume, but even if I don't use it for Cinderella's costume, I can probably find a use for it for somebody in the show. And like I said last video, I ordered more of the tulle with the raised butterflies. So now I have more of that. I think I have about 5 yards now, so I'm hoping that's enough. I don't think it's enough for the entire dress, that medieval style dress, that pattern from Mood, but I might leave the center of the dress, the front center, without the tulle overlay, and then have the rest of it have the tulle overlay. So that's what I have today. Hello! It is the morning after a 3-show weekend. I'm exhausted. It was 2 shows. Well, 2. I'm so tired still. So we had The Princess Bride, which was a play, which I costumed, and I was also working backstage and helping to manage props, and had one very quick change for Princess Buttercup, and yeah, it was so fast. I don't know how long it was, but the first night we were getting her, doing the quick change, and she was wearing this little ring that I didn't notice beforehand, that was made out of wire. Like, I think she made it herself, and a piece of the wire got stuck inside the costume when she was trying to get her hand in the sleeve. And so I mean, seriously, this quick change was maybe a minute. It was really short, maybe 2 minutes, but whatever. It was quick. And so her finger gets stuck, and like, we're trying to figure out, because I didn't even know what was wrong. We're trying, she's like, I'm stuck, but she can't talk because her microphone is on. And so then I just, like, it was stuck on a string inside the arm side. And so finally I just, like, told her, I was like, take your finger out. And I just pulled it. Luckily it didn't rip the dress or anything, because that would have been terrible. But all this time the kid playing Humperdinck is out just vamping, because he had already said, introducing Princess Buttercup, and the director's backstage, like, waving at him like, just make stuff up, because there was no way she was going out on stage at that second. So he made up all kinds of stuff, and it was fine. And then the matinee performance yesterday went pretty well. I mean, it went very well, and the quick change was quick, and we got her out mostly in time. He had to say Princess Buttercup like twice, I think, instead of just once. And there just wasn't enough time to get her in and out of, or get her out of the one costume and into the other in the time that we had. So we did our best, and it worked out well, and the show went great. And I, of course, costumed this show while I've been directing and costuming my musical theater 2 class performance. They have had a musical. It was about an hour long, and then also I'm directing and costuming Into the Woods. But Into the Woods performances aren't until the end of August, so I've still got time for that. So I'm just getting started, of course, on the Into the Woods stuff. But we had my musical theater class performance was this past Saturday. Then we had Princess Bride also this past Saturday, and then Princess Bride again on Sunday. For the Princess Bride, I mostly just used things that we already had in our costume storage. I put together some things, and I think the costumes came out really well. Here are a few photos of some of the cast members. This was a pretty big cast, and age range from, I think, like 8 years old up to 17 or 18. So it was quite the feat to costume all of those kids, but it worked out really well, and I'm pleased with how the costumes looked. Princess Buttercup's pink dress, I was going to make her one, and then I found one on sale on, I think it was on Amazon. I think it probably, came from China. But she had told me that her favorite color was pink, because I had asked her, what color would you like to wear for your princess dress? So, and I was like, you know what? And it was kind of the style I was planning on making for her anyway, and it was already made, and so I was like, okay. I mean, the materials were not that cheap feeling. Like, it was pretty solidly made, and so I was happy with it. It was, I think I paid maybe $30 for it, so I didn't have much of a budget for the Princess Bride because, like I said, we had planned to use mostly stuff we already had. I was planning on making Buttercup's dress, so I think we probably actually came in under budget because I bought that dress for $30 rather than buying the material and the hours it would take for me to make one. So that worked out pretty well. And then everyone else was stuff that we already had. I think I also purchased a couple of pairs of pants, like Wesley's black pants and Inigo's pants, I think, but I think everything else we already had, and Wesley's black shirt. I think that was all. That's all I bought. And the only thing out of all of the costumes for Princess Bride that I actually made was for the impressive clergyman, because he's a small kid, and I couldn't, there wasn't anything that we had in storage that would work for that character, so I just made that. I bought some fabric for that, and then used the cream colored was, I think I bought it last year when I was doing Cinderella at Goodwill. It was a couple of tablecloths, and so, or a tablecloth, was it just one? I can't remember now. I think it might have been 2. And so I just used that cream colored material to make just kind of an over vestment. I don't know what you would call it, but that's all that I actually sewed, except for a couple of hems for the Princess Bride. For my musical theater class, their show is called Between the Lines. It was a cute fairy tale story, and that also, I didn't sew anything for that. I just used costumes that we already had. Some I had made last year for Cinderella, some I had that we just had in storage, and things that we have used before for different shows. So it worked out really well, and the kids did a really, really great job. And the thing for both of these shows is that even though I didn't sew much for the shows, it still takes a lot of time to put together that many costumes. My class has 14 kids in it, and then we had a few extras who just wore their own pajamas. and then two of the kids in my class wore pajamas too for their characters. But so 12 costumes for my musical theater class that I, had to find and put together and steam. That's the big thing. That's the time consumer, is all of the steaming. And then for Princess Bride, how many kids were in that? 20 something, I think. So that's a lot. And then Buttercup and Wesley both had 2 costumes. Well, Wesley he wore the same pants for the farm boy and then for Dread Pirate Roberts, but then he had a different tops for both of those. And then for Dread Pirate Roberts, he had a mask and a hat and belt and sword and all that kind of stuff. So it's very time consuming to organize all of the costumes and then do all of the fittings and make sure everything fits. Luckily, honestly, I didn't take anybody's measurements but Buttercup's, because that was the only one, and the clergyman, the only 2 I knew I was going to make, and then I ended up not making Buttercup's. But I just eyeballed the kids, and pretty much everything fit. I think I had to switch out a couple of shirts, and then one kid I switched out a vest for a belt, because the vest it fit okay, but it didn't look quite right on her. But that was about it. So I was lucky, I guess I have a good eye. And then but yeah, it's a lot of work, and it's just me in the costume department. It's just me. So then after the show, of course, then I had to, because they all took their costumes home with them last week and then brought them back for the shows, so I didn't have to transport them to the theater. But I did have to do some steaming again once we got to the theater, because there were a lot of things that I think just got balled up or thrown on the floor until it brought to the theater. So things that I had steamed got wrinkled again. So I had to do some steaming at the theater, and then after the shows I had to load everything up. And I have these big, they're like I think they're like moving bags is what they're called. They're big plastic heavy duty bags that are big enough to, I just folded the costumes over, put them in the bag. I used 3 of those big bags for all the costumes for Princess Bride and Between the Lines. And they are currently in my car awaiting me going to work and putting them back. Everything needs to be, a lot of things need to be washed. One kid who ate a cupcake in his costume got blue cupcake icing dye on his white shirt. Not so happy about that. I think it will come out. So I have to go through all of the costumes and see which things definitely need to be washed. I mean, most things need to be washed. Shirts at least need to be washed. Some things can't be washed. They have to be either dry cleaned or just spot cleaned. But I saw someone I saw a thing, I think it was on Instagram. It was a costumer for a ballet company, I think, saying how they use vodka on the ballet costumes because they can't wash them. Like they spray it inside the costume to get rid of smells and germs. Like, wow. I might try that for some of our costumes that I know can't be washed. And then I'll just wash the things that can be washed. And then, yeah. So, whew. My shirt today is Princess Bride. So now that I have sewn the clip that right there. But I also need to understitch because I don't want it flipping. I don't want the lining to show. So when we flip it, I want to make sure that the lining doesn't peek through. So I'm going to understitch. So for understitching, what you do is when you sew your pieces together, you press clip the curves, anything you need to be clipped, that needs to be clipped, and then you press the seam allowance towards the lining side or the facing. This is usually used for facings, but I figured it would work well here as well. So then you sew 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch away from your seam. And then when you turn it out, it keeps the lining from rolling out towards the front. So you've got that line of stitching, basically holding the lining or facing down in place. So now the pattern for this dress, I'm not really following the pattern instructions because I want to try to keep it as flexible as possible as far as my design goes, but all of the extra stuff I'm going to add, all of the ruching or the pretty elements that I'm going to add, I'm just going to add on top of this, partly to make it easier to change up if I want to use the same bodice base but have a different look. That will make it easier because all of the trim will be fairly easily removable. At least that is my hope. I mean, obviously, you know, even if I just tack trim down, it's going to leave marks in the fabric. But if I'm replacing it with different trim, that won't make any difference. So I'm just trying to think ahead to what I could use in the future for other projects. And so that's why I decided not to go ahead and do the trim, because this pattern has trim. This is very short-waisted, which it is 1830s, so early 1830s, so that makes sense that it's short-waisted. But I'm wondering how my actresses will feel about their short-waistedness of it. But anyway, that's my plan. And then for closure in the back, I think the pattern just calls for hooks and eyes, and I might do that. This is the actual, so it's, you know, folded and then folded over again. This is the center back right here. So, but I'm not going to fold it twice because I have the lining material. So I'm just going to fold it over once and then sew it down. I think I'm going to add I'm going to add a bone. I think, you know, I said I was going to do a zipper in the back of this, but I am rethinking that idea, and I might pay for it later. But my idea is that if I do a zipper, I mean, that is easily doable. However, it is not adjustable at all as far as the size goes. If I do hooks and eyes, same thing, but I could adjust it a little bit. Like I could move hooks a little closer or a little further away to adjust the size. If I do grommets and lace the back up and add a modesty panel, I could give myself, you know, a couple of inches of extra space to make it a little more adjustable as far as size goes. Not a lot, but I think enough that, you know, more than one person could potentially wear this costume at some point. Or people who are not exactly the same size. So that's what I'm thinking at this moment. And then I could also just use this same pattern. I'm going to use the same size for the two stepsisters, but it just makes it a little more flexible. And the only thing I can foresee it becoming, Hercules is trying to break into my room. The only thing I can foresee possibly being a problem down the line if I do that is if I need this costume to become a quick change costume. And in that case, having lacing in the back is not necessarily the easiest. Although it worked okay for Cinderella because I did the lacing. I did the lacing so that at the waist I had loops. So I never like unlaced the costume. I just had enough slack that I could pull it open and get it over her head, and then I could just pull those loops to tighten it and then tie it in the back. It worked fine, but I mean, ideally you don't want, when you're doing a quick change, it's better to not put it over the head and to pull it up from the bottom. However, if you're wearing like hoop skirts and stuff like that, you have to go over the head. So I'm just thinking about like wigs and stuff. You want to have enough room that you can get it over their heads without messing up their wigs or getting their makeup all over the costume. So it's a lot to think about. Theater costumes are just different, and I'm still learning about that. So enough rambling. I'm just going to think a little bit more on it before I decide on closure in the back. But the understitching has worked well. I'm kind of getting 80s prom dress vibes from this, but I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. So I was thinking I need to make some more of this, but I just did a strip of it to try it out, but I just pinked the edges with my they're the curved pinking shears, but so I like the way that trim looks. And then I thought I would add some of these kind of light purple bows on it around, just to make it as ostentatious as possible. But I need to make some more of this. But I've got plenty of fabric, so